and welcome to this video. Today we're going to show you our favorite way here in the SWO kitchen of saving garlic for the winter. It's very easy and hope you can follow along. Okay, you're going to need a few things to get started. So we have a cutting board, a sharp knife, an ice cube tray, ideally an older ice cube tray, one that you're not going to use for water again because there's a good chance that it's going to start to taste like garlic. So you might want to just sacrifice an ice cube tray and call it your garlic tray. A metal bowl just for any scraps, some olive oil or any other oil you'd like to use, and a food processor. So let's get started. Okay, if you watched our previous video on how to plant garlic, then you'll remember that there were certain cloves that we weren't able to plant. So anything that had sort of damage on it, anything that was just way too big to plant, or anything that the skin, the outer protective layer, came off, could not be planted. So these are the ones that you're going to want to make sure you freeze or eat right away because they're not going to last the winter once that outer layer skin has been removed. So what we're going to do is I have quite a bit of garlic there and I have more in a container. Going to skin all of the garlic, take off the ends that are the woody end, I guess, or the end where the roots would come out, and I'll cut off any bad or damaged parts, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I finished taking off all of the skins from the garlic, but as you can see, some of them are still a little bit dirty, so there's a bit of dirt left on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse these off first, then I'm going to come back and cut off any of the green ends or any of the damage on it after I've given them a quick rinse. So I'll rinse them first and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I've rinsed off the garlic cloves. What you're going to do now is you're going to examine all of the cloves. Anything like this that was on this particular clove, I cut off. This is going to go in the garbage bin. This piece of garlic now, as is, I'm okay with this little bit of, growth in there. I don't really mind the green. In the food processor with the blade attachment. So again, pick up another piece. There's a little piece there I might cut off. I can't do that while I'm holding the camera, but this one too, I'll cut that off. This piece looks good in the food processor. So basically do that for all your cloves of garlic. Cut off any damage or any bad pieces and chuck everything else in your food processor. Another thing, any really big cloves, I would just cut them in half. Just like that. In the processor. Okay, so all the cloves have been chopped up. All the bad parts have been cut off. They're in the food processor. They're ready to go. Reminder, you're using an ice cube tray. Make sure it's an ice cube tray you're not going to use for water again. I suspect that adding water after having garlic in there is going to make for really gross ice cubes. I will not be held responsible if anybody has a garlicky drink. I don't think that would be very good. Incidentally, it's also why I have a dedicated cutting board for garlic and onion. If you want to cut an apple on this board, be my guest, but I suspect it's going to be a pretty gross apple. It will taste like garlic. So we could put that aside for now and keep going with this. So now, like I said, you got your blade attachment. All of your garlic cloves are in the food processor. We are going to put the lid on. It's plugged in. And basically, you're going to just spin it around until it chops up the garlic in small pieces. So here we go. So we're going to stop and take a look. Still fairly big pieces in there, so we're going to keep going. Stop it again. I'm going to open it up and see. Okay, so some of these pieces are still a little bit big, so we're going to use the spatula. And push that down. Okay, so the pieces were still a bit big. We put the lid back on. We're going to process it a little bit longer. And that should be good. Perfect. So nice and small bits of garlic. Now we're ready for the next step. Okay, next step, quite simple. Take a spoonful of this. You're gonna fill it in one of the trays. Not all the way to the top. You wanna leave a little bit of space because we're gonna add some oil a little bit later. Basically like that. So you want a little bit of space, not too tight. So we're gonna fill all of these squares with the chopped up garlic, and then I'll show you the next step with the oil. Okay, next step, you've got your oil. Might be a little bit tricky to do this one-handed, but we'll see how we get along. Hopefully I'm actually, there we go. So, I'm gonna pour some oil in here. Maybe that much. Then you're gonna take a little toothpick and just swirl it around. You want the oil to get to the bottom. You want the garlic to be completely covered with oil. So just like that. So you're gonna repeat that with all of the cells, and then I'll show you the next step. So that's it. Now we've added the oil in all of the cells, and basically you're done. You're just gonna throw this in the freezer and let it sit for 3 to 4, 6 hours, depending on how big your cells are and how much oil and how much garlic you've added. I like to think that one cell is about 2 cloves of garlic. So if a recipe calls for 1 or 2 cloves of garlic, I usually use just 1 full cube. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. These are nice and frozen now. What I did is I filled the sink with hot water, and I just set the whole tray in the sink for about 3 or 4 seconds, just enough to loosen it up, because this is a full plastic ice cube tray. It's not one of the silicone ones that pop out easily. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the garlic in the bag, in the tray. Flip the tray upside down. So there you go. Once you're done, make sure you label your bag, pop that in the freezer, and then you've got your garlic for the winter. It's that simple.